guard will be located at this cone. The number 2, which is the 2 guard, will be located at this cone. Small forward, which is the number 3. Number 4, which will be the power forward, and your cone in the center represents the center. So if the point guard goes out on a man who has the ball on the wing, the shooting guard would also come over. And this is so if there happens to be an attack of offense on that left side of the floor, which is where the offense will be. So as you catch, you assess, boom, boom, layup. You come off the curl. Hi. Allow me to break down the reason why getting your basketball trainer from seasoned players is tremendously helpful in developing talent. Each day missed while another good player has the right tools and drills to get better can be devastating down the road when you match up with great talent. The hours you spend training are priceless, and you don't get a chance to go back and correct poor trainer habits of past days. This is just a fresh start.
Early like this morning.
The focus is the best start.
I put on the same face.
Africa is beautiful.
I just gotta be sure.
With my HD palette too.
Let them know what's inside.
Prep game on and pop.
Early like this morning.
Neutral place, not an
Don't
option.
tell me I am out of
Take
place.
a knee like my man Cap.
I just gotta be sure.
Like Collar
This is how I
and
hide.
Nike. There are many great skill development systems out there to increase things like ball handling control and good shooting form. However, what gets left unchallenged on those platforms is the know-how and instinct it takes to use those skills effectively in game situations. Get ready for the next episode of The Breakdown with Coach Jim, teaching players what success in the game really looks like.
Breakdown, the breakdown, the breakdown, the breakdown, 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 breakdown,
Thank you all for joining. My name is Coach Jim, and this is The Breakdown. Today, what we're going to go into is some information about a 2-3 zone, the understanding behind that zone, and some good ways to attack the 2-3 zone. Later on, as we continue, we're going to come back and we're going to work on different zones, such as a 1-3-1, a boxing 1. And just kind of look at the different dynamic of how they're laid out on the floor, which areas are easy to cover from a defense standpoint, which areas are difficult to cover from a defensive standpoint, and what areas are easier to attack. So right now what we have laid out is 5 cones. We have 5 tall cones, and we've got 2 short circle cones each side of the floor here. What the cones represent are the players that would idealistically be on the floor at one given time. Now, I want to express the concept of why coaches go to this particular zone. Normally, if you go by position, you'll start with the number 1, which is the point guard, will be located at this cone. The number 2, which is the 2 guard, will be located at this cone. In the back corner, you may have a small forward, which is the number 3. And this cone here represents the number 4, which will be the power forward. And your cone in the center represents the center, which is normally the biggest player on the floor or the player on the opposing team that plays that position the best. And idealistically, the concept behind the zone is that each player covers a certain zone of the floor. So right here at my number 1, right here the point guard is designated to this zone on the right side of the floor, and anytime an offensive player catches the ball in this area, the point guard is to cover that particular player with the ball. He covers the left side of the floor on the wings. Down on the block, your small forward will cover anything that goes out to the three-point line in the corners, all the way to here on the block. The power forward will be the opposing side to the small forward, and he'll do the same thing in his corner. And then you have your center that basically covers the whole painted area. Now, what the zones are designed to do with most coaches, because every coach will make different changes to his zone. He may have his players playing in the 2-3, and there will be certain adjustments depending on the team that you're playing against, or whatever the coach feels more comfortable with doing with his zone. And I always like to talk about the weaker areas to cover in a 2-3 zone, because normally coaches call this zone if he feels as though the opposing team does not shoot the three-pointer well. And as you look at where the players are positioned, they are all covering mostly the painted area to anything inside the three-point line very well. It's good coverage inside the three-point line. And what happens is when the ball rotates around the three-point line, each player on the outside, which here you have the point guard and the power forward, they'll extend out to cover the three-point line when the ball is on their side. On the point guard and the small forward side, they'll go out and cover the three-point line on that side. So it's important that as an offensive team, if you're attacking a 2-3 zone, that the three-point line should get good shots in that area if the rotation is well. Better defenses yield better coverages. So that means these guys on the sides here outside of the paint rotate to the three-point line very well. And if I haven't said this, normally your zones are designed to move together. So what that means is if the ball were to go out on the wing on the left side of the floor, even though you have your point guard who actually goes out to that particular part of the floor, each player will move closer to that side, because the idea is coverage where the ball is the most important. So if there are offensive players that are on the opposite side of the ball, there's nothing that they can do with the ball. So you want all your defense to shift. So if the point guard goes out on a man who has the ball on the wing, the shooting guard would also come over slightly in the zone. Your center will move slightly over. Your small forward will move slightly over. And your power forward will move slightly over. And this is so if there happens to be an attack of offense on that left side of the floor, which is where the offense will be, that they have enough coverage that if one guy is beat by the offensive player, you have multiple guys in here to make sure they don't get a good shot or not get a good shot at all. So what I want to walk through is a couple routes that could be ran by this offensive team against this particular zone. And what they're going to start with is I want to deal with some interior dribble moves as you get into the teeth of this zone. And I haven't talked about plays that coaches could run, because if you didn't know, no matter what age you are, coaches run plays, and those plays are designed to attack certain defenses. And a play is nothing more than the offensive team with their 5 players running different routes or running different pathways, intertwining with the zone, setting what we call picks and screens off of each other to get players open for open shots. So if I started down here at the baseline and part of my coach's play ran me up the baseline underneath the rim, and I took a pick from screen from my teammate, and I'm moving up closer in this region. The areas that have the most open space when you're looking at the zone is this point here, which is halfway between these two guys, the point guard and the shooting guard and the small forward here. Right directly in between here, which is halfway between the point guard and the shooting guard. And halfway in between here, between the shooting guard and the power forward. So my opinion is catching the ball in these two areas is a pretty good sweet spot. However, ball handling and control is very important, getting in the depths of a 2-3 zone. Once you step in here, you're in a danger zone because as you're in the middle, you have coverage from all angles. You're basically surrounded. And so normally the only good options is once these guys collapse down on you as an offensive player is kickouts to three-pointers. So you catch in, take a dribble, they sandwich you, you either go up for a quick shot. If you can, put a decent on-the-floor move with just a couple dribbles, because the more you dribble in here with this good coverage, you're in the red zone. So kickouts to three-pointers, and then good passes, because most of these guys are going to be taught to put their hands in the passing lane. So even if you get inside here and you're trying to make a kick out, these passes get picked off probably, in my opinion, the most in a game if there's a 2-3 zone. Once you have gotten into the teeth of the defense and you make a pass outside, because you got your defender here that's jumping with his hands up in the air, or reaching down low to those bounce passes that you can make. And theoretically, your point guard and your shooting guard are going to be the best at getting their hands out on those passes. Your big players can do it as well, but in my opinion, their hands aren't as active and they don't move as quickly as your point guard and your shooting guard. Starting down on the baseline first. We're going to do that one at the top. But if you curl around and you take your pick off your man and you catch it in this region here, one of the moves that I have been coaching is a one dribble between the leg, attacking this center, and then the next dribble straight to the basket. Now, idealistically, it looks like that will work out well, looking at the spacing, but you must know when you come up off of your pick, off your man here, that all the defenders on the inside recognize that the ball is probably either going to be passed here or has been passed there, and the attention is all on you. So what happens is when you curl off of your screen and you come in this area and you catch a pass, you've got a split second to go ahead and activate this dribble move. And I like this dribble move because from what I've seen of basketball, watching it for years, a lot of your big guys, now in today's time is a little bit different, but a lot of your big guys back in my era when I was growing up, they weren't as agile to move left and right to stay with a ball handler, a player who could handle the ball pretty well. So coming in off of this screen and going into this attack directly at a big player, oftentimes will kind of put them at a standstill because they felt charged at, and their mind kind of goes to guarding a point guard and the point guard being able to rush past.